again, I say that we who have entered into this consciousness that we call Christ consciousness, which is through metaphysics, that we have been given a certain place, I guess, to say in consciousness that we must occupy. I'm not in any way trying to take away any of your traditional connections to holidays such as Christmas with family and friends and giving gifts. This is all fine. But we are bigger than all of that. And I want to talk a little bit about that. The spiritual perspective of the Nativity. Christmas represents the birth of our awareness that the Christ presence has expanded itself as us in human form. I want you to take that in. That's very powerful. This is what Christmas represents to a metaphysician, a spiritual person. It is the birth. You remember that? You remember that? Do you remember when you didn't know any of this and you were still maybe coming out of some religious dogma or belief that had been a part of your story in the past, from your childhood or wherever? But you were searching and you were hungry and you outgrew it and you knew something was not quite feeding you like it used to be. And then maybe you picked up a daily word, or you was invited by a friend to come to a Unity or Science of Mind service, or some speaker, lecture that was speaking on metaphysical things. And you sat there and wow, the awareness came in. There is more. There is more. And I'm excited because I'm getting ready to learn more that I didn't know existed. That truly is the birth of the awareness of the Christ presence and how it's expressed itself in us, in you, and in me. That was powerful. I thought I was just an empty shell of a sinner, born in sin. And everything good was out there. Jesus was out there. God was out there. Heaven was out there. My destiny was out there. My mansion with my name on it was out there. Everything was out there. But to have that penetration of that awareness that what I looked for out there was expressing itself in my human form, that is truly the experience of incarnation. That's when it comes in to the human form. And like Jesus, we can grow into the consciousness Christhood by following the same inner compass he used to find his way home. That's what we're all looking for. Home. And I wish that there was an absolute place out here that could fulfill that. And I've had better homes, lived in better cities than others, but it never stopped the yearning of home. Home is when I was divine idea in the mind of my Creator. That's home. Nothing out of here will ever satisfy you totally as home until you follow the inner compass. Yes, whatever Yeshua, Jesus represents to you, and there's all kinds of different things I think represented here about this person. But at least we've grasped the idea that he's a way shower. I've heard that being pretty comfortable in the metaphysical churches and Unity and Fillmore's teaching that Jesus was a way shower. And I love this idea that following the same inner compass he used finds our way home. Home is within us. The most inconvenient spiritual truth of all time is this. The only begotten Son, born in a manger to Joseph and Mary, is the same only begotten Son born in each of us. This is the most inconvenient spiritual truth of all time. In other words, most people would not accept this as truth. But we know it to be true, that Mary and Joseph and the whole story is not only about one person's sonship to God, but it's about all of our sonship and daughterhood to God. In this Christ presence, again, I'm reminded and remind each one of you that it is within us. So let's look at the little bit of the way that Marianne Williamson put it. I loved it. The inner gold beneath the garnished nonsense. A lot of it is nonsense that goes on at this time of the year. But underneath that, there is the inner gold of truth. Mary, in the case of the context I'm using this morning, represents the entire human race. The race of form, the race of body. In the story, you find her asleep. She's asleep. She's awakened by an angel. The angel being the voice of God, the inner yearning, the knowledge that we are born for something more. For something more. She's told to go to the roof. Or to a higher place in herself. Into a higher state of consciousness. Maybe she's told, you need to go and meditate. Something great is happening. Something is going to happen to you that's going to change everything. Go somewhere into the higher state and quieten your ego mind, your chatter, and prepare yourself to receive what's coming. She didn't know what it was, but she was obedient. And there, because the mind is clear when lifted above the craziness of the world, we get a message from God. The message is we're not meant to be a tool for an insane, fearful-based world. We're here to live as a living expression of something greater than anything you have ever imagined. That transformation is the hope of this world. And right now we need to grasp that. As difficult and challenging as things look in the world, I'm not hearing the best of news from everything from our food supply to money. It's not good news. And one can go with that and become very depressed and very discouraged about what is ahead. And that's the time we need to go to the roof. Are you doing that? And it's going to get, maybe we need to do that more than just once or twice a week on Wednesday and Sunday. Or maybe it's going to get to where we need to do it more than once a day in a little 5 or 10 minute meditation. Maybe we're going to have to go to the roof more often. And to do that, we have to set different priorities. And for 2023, I hope that is something that can be useful to all of us to begin to look at our priorities and what and how many distractions there are in our lives every day. Oh, I had every intention of meditating today. Or meditating this morning when I got up. Or meditating before I retired in the day. I just got so busy. And I got on my phone and I got on Facebook. And this happened and that happened until I just didn't make it. I didn't make it to the roof. I didn't make it to that higher state of consciousness that I so need. For it is the place in which I hear the voice, guiding me and directing me and clearing me and navigating me through this time of chaos. How do we get through it? This is the real meaning of the Annunciation. The heart receives the announcement of a higher purpose. "2022 has not been the easiest year by any means for, I think, a lot of us. I can't speak for everybody, but it's been a challenging year, even here at HeartLight. Physically, for a lot of people, emotionally, financially. But as we enter into 2023, I've got a good feeling that we're stepping into a completely different vibration. 2023 is a 7. And I've been directed to this number. Now, you know, mostly in so many studies, it's 3, 6, and 9. That is our main numbers that we look for. But you can't exclude any of these numbers because they represent different frequencies of a multi-consciousness. I was looking into 7, a time of rebirth. And I thought, I'm 77, so I'm going to have a double blessing because I'm going to hold on to that. So all you 7 people out there, this is a good number for you, a good vibration that you've entered into. It is so important. Mary also is the heart, while Joseph is the worldly self that navigates the mortal world. He had to accept what's going on without understanding it. But she needed the understanding. And she's the only one that could receive the understanding first because she represents the feminine of all of us. The heart, the place to receive the penetration of the divine into the human. The seed, the DNA of God penetrates into the DNA of your ancestry humanity. And that's what we have to do here at HeartLight more this year, is we have to learn to discern between the blueprints that are awakening in us, following our human DNA or following divine DNA. Because DNA is nothing but a story. It is your information. Now, there was no room in the inn, which represents the intellect. Mary and Joseph, to rest, they had to find a manger, an humble, naked, raw, and authentic spot within our consciousness where Christ is born. What is that saying? Get real. Be authentic. Be yourself. Don't wear all of these garments of personas that you have made out of the fact that you wanted validation of that which is outside of yourself. Any time in the scripture that it talks about someone being naked, it's talking about authenticity. It's not talking about just physical nakedness. It's talking about when I look at you, I see who you are. When I hear you, I hear who you are, not someone else that you've been made to be by culture or society. I think we all gravitate toward people that we feel are authentic with us, that are real, that what they say they mean. We have to get rid of our personas, our masks that we are behind and hide ourselves and be real. And may we create such a space here at HeartLight that you can feel to be real. I'm going to give you just a few. I got a few. Oh, it's not too bad. We're doing very good here. Give you some things here if I can find where I want to go. Let's look at the inn. What does this mean on a metaphysical level? There was no room in the inn. Represents the unenlightened intellect which has no room for higher spiritual insights. Some of you have friends and family and whatever you'd love to share some of these wonderful spiritual principles and truths that you know and love and has changed your life. But when you want to share it, there's no room in the inn. You see, it was important that they did not push themselves into anything, but only to find where the vacancy was. And that's where you have to meet people. You have to meet people where they are. You can't push through. It's whatever room they have in their mind to receive is where we meet them. The manger represents baser human emotions associated with human personality. I have a saying that often when we get into our emotional body, we are pretty much knocked out consciously. When emotion runs us, we're not truly thinking for ourselves, but we go into reactive mode. And that's when we say things, do things that if we thought, oh, if I'd have really thought this through, I wish I had said it differently. I wish I had acted differently. And we do things that we can't take back sometimes because when we come back to consciousness, we would have made a different choice. The fact this happened in Bethlehem, abiding place of our heart for universal substance bread. Bread is always a symbol of substance. Jesus said, I am the bread which cometh down from heaven. And of course we know one of the greatest ceremonies of most Christian religion is the sacrament and the passing of the wine and the bread. Just a few more here I really liked. Mary herself represents our pure, maternal, and superior intuition, which is open and receptive to divine ideas. So as the story goes, Mary did not get this from the angels of her mind. And I believe that the angels was not an angel so much outside of herself, but it was her own higher mind or thoughts. And that's what angel means, messenger. So she was receiving a message from the higher parts of herself. But the human part of herself could not get it because, and that's why she had to go to the roof, because until her human consciousness was raised to a level to receive the message of the angel, it could not be received. And if it could not be received, there could not be conception. She could not have conceived anything. Now, I want to say this to all of us. That's especially here in HeartLight. I hope that we hear a lot of spiritual stuff that comes through here. Come on a Wednesday. It pours out. I mean, I have entered a place in which I am totally humanly out of control right now, that I am just a vessel and it's just channeling through me. And a lot comes through here. And I always wonder, what of that did we get? How much of that did anyone who sat here on Wednesday for that hour of class, what did they get? And some of you come and share with me what you got. You got this, you got that. Some of you don't say anything, some of you do. And then I ask myself, well, David, what'd you get? Because you got to understand, I'm a student, not just a teacher or facilitator. I'm a student too. I learn out of what comes out of my own mouth. I have for 60 years. I've had things come through me and I go, oh my God, I believe that. I'm not sure I do. I've never heard that before. So just because it comes through me doesn't mean that I understand it too. But here's what you do get. When you get something, that meant that spiritual principle or idea came and found a matching frequency in your mind or consciousness in which it could be conceived into you as a truth. But if the spiritual idea is up here and all of the mind is down here, you can't conceive that way. There's no room in the end. Try to conceive, you that wanted to conceive children, with him sleeping in one bedroom and you in the other. You better get in the same place. Because that's the only way that we can conceive what the Spirit is saying to us. Joseph represents our kind of part of our intellect, which is characterized by superior knowledge. In other words, I know it, I learned it, I've memorized it. The intellect finds it difficult to give birth to divine ideas. It can only protect them and nurture through the disciplined spiritual practice. And that's the brain. The brain is the he, the heart is the she. Mary and Joseph. Again, I say to you, I don't know how many times my brain says, I don't know that I got that. I don't know if I believe that. And I thought I believed this, and now I'm saying this out of my mind, out of my mouth. Do I believe that? That's my Joseph part of me. But if he will partner with her, she is the part of him that can receive and conceive. But when he's all by himself, he can try all he wants to, but he cannot conceive. But he can nurture her. He can help her to bring forth the knowledge that he has given her. I got a lot up here. I got a lot of stuff in my brain. But it's not going to do anything in my brain unless I have a heart and a feminine part of me that opens up and said, okay, I'll receive it, conceive it, and together we'll achieve it. And that's what we want, is to achieve it, right? The angels, higher thoughts, insights, inclinations, which come from a consciousness grounded in truth and principles. I have no trouble about beautiful, fluffy, white-winged angels and all of that. I love the art of angels, but not to the point that it disconnects me from the angels of myself, my higher thoughts. Gabriel happened to be the angel that showed up in this story, which represents spiritual discernment that allows divine nature to guide us. Shepherds, the humble, trustworthy, natural thoughts we have that watch over our good and obedient intentions, or sheep. The wise men, the esoteric knowledge and superior spiritual insight that makes us open and receptive to our Christ nature. The story says the kings from the east came. Now the kings represent those who held great knowledge, esoterical knowledge. They were astrologers, they were many things. But I love the fact that it said even with all that knowledge that they bowed down to the Christ and presented their gifts. In other words, they got off their high horse enough to come down and say, we're here to bring forth the Christ consciousness. We all have to do that who have labels, ministers, prophets, whatever we call ourselves, psychics, whatever. We have to be careful about these labels because once in a while we need to bow down with these labels and say, it's not the label that defines me and drives me. It is that which I do, the gift in which I have, that Spirit comes through for the highest and best good. And I've always suggested that to all leaders who get on their high horse and think that they are someone that they're not. I take check of myself all the time to try to keep myself as humble as I can and aware that I'm only a vessel. This is why I've struggled constantly with the titles of being a spiritual leader or being this and another. I don't want to be the leader. I want to facilitate the leader in us all, that which is leading us, the Holy Spirit. But I realize that I have a position out here that appears to fit that label, but I'm not these labels. The virgin birth represents the undefiled and purified stillness of the mind in us, which gives birth to our awareness of the Christ pattern. And I love that word, pattern. For an in-depth article of the virgin birth, there's so many things you can look up that's metaphysical. So the way I see this virgin birth idea is there are ideas and thoughts that are all in the ether or the universal mind, whatever you want to call it, that we have yet never tapped into. See, we think everything has been, everything is, but we don't understand that which is going to be. I appreciate this time that we've been in of the restoration of what has been edited out through indigenous people, Native Americans, Aborigines, et cetera, et cetera. There was a lot that's been lost in Egyptian teachings, whatever. And of course, the thing about that is it's given the misnomer of being New Age, and it's nothing new. It's just we forgot it, and it seems new. But it's not what has been said in the past. It's what is coming in to be said that originates in our time. You see, the things that happened in the experiences of the past with Buddha and with Lasso and all of these different, Muhammad, Jesus, all of them. These are figures of the past that had such an experience that they received these experiences of enlightenment and began to share it and teach it. I don't think a one of them, in studying them, had any idea of starting a religion. I don't think a one of them wanted to start a religion. The religion came later after they're gone, and man takes their teaching and begins to organize it into a business. So the scripture I use for this is, "Eye hath not seen, nor ear heard the things that are prepared to them that love God." In other words, my eyes have never seen it. It never was. It's that which is coming in. There is a word for us in 2023 that fits 2023. We don't have to go borrow everything from 2,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago, 6,000 years, 40,000 years ago. That's all good. We bring it in. But we don't have to borrow everything. All we have to do is learn how to open ourselves and create a womb in consciousness to receive that which has never been before. And when I get into that mode once in a while, I see how difficult it is because the brain starts in shutting down because it goes, I don't have anything in here to connect it to in my memory bank. So this year you must learn to hear differently and learn differently. There's much to be said as we open. And why I call them virgin thoughts and ideas is because they've never been yet given to man to deal with them, mess them up, change them. They've been unpenetrated by culture, society, religion. Even your ancestral story has not penetrated this data, this light photon data that is coming in from higher fifth dimension and beyond. It is so virgin and clear that it has to have a womb in which to receive it so that it can penetrate and become a part of expansion and enlightenment of your human consciousness. This is why meditation becomes so important. So the song says, long lay the world in sin and error pining. This is almost an accurate description of today's human condition, as in any other. But the next phase of the song says, till he appeared, and the soul felt its worth. Do you feel your worth? Are you really feeling worthy enough to be called a son and daughter of God? And when I say son and daughter, I mean an expression. I'm not talking about gender. I'm not talking about man and woman. I'm talking about the fact, do you feel worthy enough to be the sinless, guiltless expression of God incarnated in your human story? You mean it's not simply meant just to work all day, try the best to survive, live with chronic economic trauma and anxiety, and then grow old and die? You mean I'm more than that? I am worthy to be more than that. Say it with me. I am worthy. I am worthy to be more than that. And that is survival of the species. The adolescence of human evolution is coming to an end. And the message that is the first message coming out of the ether is this: grow up. Be no more children being tossed to and fro by every wind of doctrine, but growing up in love into the fullness of the unity of Christ. Wow. The birth of Christ is the same concept of the more secular notion that we call self-actualization. The minute we truly know who we are, the authentic, true, divine self, at that moment, Christ as the concept is birthed in our human mind. It means an embrace of larger possibilities of what is meant to be human. And I've been telling you that for the years that I've been here, that we have to prepare ourselves to take the next step out of Homo sapien sapien into Homo luminous, or Barbara Marx Hubbard's Homo universalis. But we are ready to evolve and redefine ourselves at what it means to be human is upon us. I hope that being together and through the teachings and what is represented here this year will help us to do that. And I'm closing. You give me about 2 minutes here and I'm done. I promise you. I want to give you two scriptures that I love. First, John 3:2. Beloved, now we are the children of God, and it doth not appear what we shall be, but we know that, now get this, when he, or when Christ appears, we shall appear like he is. Of course, this is Bible, so it's got the pronouns. So the appearing of Christ is in us. We all kind of accepted Christ in us, right? But Christ in you, and knowing that, is only a hope. Christ in you, the hope of glory. I'm tired of hoping. I hope the world will change. I hope humans will get better. I hope people will love each other more. Hope we get through this racial thing and this all these phobias. Or we can become all of these symbols that I've told you. We can become the city of Bethlehem. We can become the manger. We can become the place of the birth. We can create an inner environment in which that which is in us can birth itself and appear as it is. And so as it is, so are we. Galatians 4:19, my little children, whom I travail in birth again and tell you, Christ be formed in you. Millions of literalist Christians are looking for the return of Jesus. Literally from the sky. Millions. And yet teach their Bible that they're waiting for to come out of the sky is in them. And they will quote this, Christ in you, the hope of glory, but yet talk about Christ coming back in the second coming of Christ outside of themselves. It's totally double tongue talk, as the natives would say it is. Christ in us, the hope of glory. I see Christ in you, and you see Christ in me. Namaste. Namaste. I see Christ in you, and you see Christ in me. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste. Sing it again. I see Christ in you, and you see Christ in me. Namaste. Namaste.
Namaste. Namaste.
I see Christ in you. Oh, you see Christ in me. Namaste.
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 Christ in me beholds the Christ in you. Namaste.
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 Christ in me beholds the Christ in you. Namaste.
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 Oh, namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste. All right. Well, you got a lot of education about Christmas today. And may you take what it is that you desire or want to take from this. I don't think there's anything that's been said that much that you didn't already know on a metaphysical level. You've already been taught probably every Saturday that you've been, every Christmas, that you've been taught a metaphysical Christmas. So it's been around a long time. It's not new, but it's a great time to remind ourselves of this metaphysical understanding that Christmas is a continuous experience that's always accessible to us when we choose for it to be.
Time to let your heart light shine. Time to let your heart light